Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bethany, and today I'm going to talk about 12 books that I want to read in 2025. So last year, at the beginning of the year, I decided to pick 12 books that I wanted to read for the year based on the 12 favorites from the previous year. So I'm going to do that again this year because that honestly worked out so well for me. I actually read all 12 of those books on my list from last year, and a lot of them were 5 stars or 4 stars at least, or maybe even made my favorites list of this year. So I think that's really cool. And the way that I did it, I just picked out some of my favorite things about my favorite book and then tried to find a book that was similar in that way. So I've done the same thing this year. So I'm going to go through all of those with you. I'm going to not describe what my favorite book was about, but I am going to mention the name and probably put a picture up on the screen, and then tell you what about the new book, like how I'm relating them. I guess that's my plan. I hope it makes sense. And I'm going to try to do my best to share information about the 12 books that I want to read this year. However, I'm probably just going to share what I know about them and maybe not full synopsis. So just a heads up on those things, but I'm so excited to share these with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first book is based on the fact that I loved the Timeless series by Gabriel Meyer. I actually read 3 books in that series last year and they were all favorites. So because of that, I decided to choose A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. And the reason why I chose this one for the Timeless series is because I know this is a series. This is a start to the Mark of the Lion series. And I know people really love it. It's also Christian. And so that's kind of why I chose it for the Timeless series. And I don't know much about it other than I think it's biblical fiction. It's Francine Rivers and people really love it. So I'm so excited to start this new series in 2025. The next book on my favorites from last year was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And for that one, I chose Vienna Prelude by Bodie and Brock Taney. And I really don't know anything about this other than I know that it's set in World War II, and I think it's in Vienna. So I chose it because The Nightingale is also set during World War II. And this one is a Christian historical fiction, and I know that it came out the year I was born, so 1989. That's actually why I bought it, because I had that on a prompt list and I didn't really have any books that fit that prompt. So that's why I bought this, but I didn't know anything about it. But since then, I feel like I've heard this name a lot, or these, I think it's a couple. I've heard their name, and I feel like back then they were pretty popular as far as Christian fiction goes. So I'm excited to read this one. It has really good reviews and ratings on Goodreads. Okay, my next favorite book from last year is A Girl Called Samson by Amy Harmon. I loved that book so much. And for that one, I picked The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan. So the reason why I picked this one is because A Girl Called Samson was a historical fiction based on a real woman. And this also is historical fiction based on a real woman. So this is based on Martha Ballard, I believe. And again, I don't know a ton about this. I don't want to know too much. I just know she's a midwife. There's a body found in the river, frozen, and she's part of that investigation. I know it has hard-hitting things in it, so just a heads up. But I kind of feel like I'm like the last to read this. I feel like so many people have read it and loved it. I haven't heard anyone say anything bad about it, so I'm so excited. This is probably going to be the one on my list that I read first. Okay, my next favorite book from last year is Only the Beautiful by Susan Meisner. And for that one, I chose Molokai by Alan Brennert. Sorry, I didn't know who wrote this book, but this is historical fiction set in Hawaii, on an island where there is a leper, or was a leper colony. And so I chose this because in Only the Beautiful, there were a lot of themes of like isolation, eugenics, kind of like forced medical things. And I feel like that like isolation from leprosy and all of that will be similar in this book. So I'm really excited to try this one out. My next favorite book from last year was The Lost Year by Catherine Marsh. And for that, I chose Two Roads by Joseph Bruac. I am bad at names today. But anyway, this is also a middle grade historical fiction, so that's why I chose it. The Lost Year is middle grade historical fiction. This one is set in Oklahoma, which is where I live, and it's about Native American boarding schools for children. So I'm very curious to see how this one is, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My next favorite book of last year was Middletide by Sarah Crouch, and it is a very atmospheric, slow mystery. And the one that I picked for that is Sugar Birds by Cheryl Gray Bostrom. So this is a Christian mystery, I think. The reason why I chose this one for Middletide is that they're both set in the Pacific Northwest. I think they're both going to have very atmospheric mysteries, and also they're in similar time frames. So I think this one is like an 80s timeline, and Middletide was kind of like 80s 90s timeline. So I really enjoyed that, and that's why I chose Sugar Birds. Next on my list was What Happens Next by Christina Suzanne Nelson. So this is the only one that I decided to just choose another book by the author, and that one is More Than We Remember. And so the only reason I chose this is because it's the same author and I own it and I want to read more of her books. So I don't remember the details, but I think it's going to be similar kind of, I don't know how to describe her writing, but it's not really thriller-like, but very mystery heavy and deep, and a lot of like family drama type things usually in the books that I've read. So I think this one will probably be the same. And like I said, I don't really remember much of the plot. I think we definitely have some dual point of view. That's very typical in her other books that I've read. And oh yes, okay, so I know it's following a woman whose husband was involved in a car accident that leaves a woman dead, and I'm pretty sure maybe he was doing something he shouldn't have been doing. I'm not sure, but I think it also follows the sheriff, yeah, or deputy it says, who is investigating, maybe? I don't know. But I'm really curious to see if I like this one as much as I liked her other one. Next, from my favorites from last year, is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. For that one, I chose The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This book would be my first by Diane Chamberlain. I don't know a lot about it, but I do remember hearing that it was about motherhood and there's some magical realism, I think. I do believe the main character is either struggling with infertility or is pregnant and gets like a not good diagnosis for her baby. So just an upfront trigger warning about that. I don't know the details at all, but that's actually why I chose it, because The Unmaking of June Farrow had some magical realism in it and was also very strong in like the motherhood theme. So that's why I picked this one up. All right, my next favorite from last year is Della and Darby by Susanna B. Lewis. And for that one, I picked The Incredible Winston Brown by Sean Dietrich. I don't think these are going to be very similar books, but the reason why I picked it is because I loved the Southern atmosphere, this small town setting in Della and Darby, and I feel like I'm going to get that in this one as well. I think Sean is called Sean of the South. I've never read any of his books, but I am very curious to try them out. This one I think is a little bit of a mystery, definitely set in a small town in the South. So I'm excited about this one. Okay, the last three I don't have physical copies of, but one of my favorites was The Nature of Disappearing by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. And for this one, I chose The God of the Woods. I am blanking on Liz Moore. I almost forgot the author. So I don't own this one, but I do plan to hopefully check it out from the library, although it's very popular, and I think I actually put it on hold so that I can just read it whenever it comes available, hopefully sometime in 2025. So the reason why I picked The God of the Woods is because I think it's going to be similar in the very atmospheric, slow burn mystery set in nature, and that's similar to The Nature of Disappearing. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I feel like I've heard really great things about it. The next one on my favorites from last year is Cole and Layla Are Just Friends. I think that's what it's called, by Bethany Turner. I loved this rom-com so much. It's a friends to lovers rom-com, and so for that one I picked the Best Friends playlist. I think this is Jessica King. I didn't write the author down, but I'm pretty sure it's Jessica King. I'll put a picture up here. I do have this one on my Kindle, and it is Friends to Lovers, so I'm really looking forward to trying this one out. And the last one on my list, my all-time favorite book of last year. Okay, so not all-time. My favorite book of 2024 is The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. So for this one, I actually chose This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti. And the reason why is because I really wanted to read This Present Darkness, but I was a little bit nervous about the spiritual warfare aspect in the book. I didn't want it to bother me or freak me out. But there was spiritual warfare in The Masterpiece as well, and I was nervous about it, but it wasn't too much to handle, and the story was so beautiful because we all know who wins. Light wins, Jesus wins. And anyway, I really, really loved The Masterpiece. I don't think these books are going to be very similar in any other aspect, but it has encouraged me to go ahead and pick up This Present Darkness, just because I think it's going to be a good story, and I think I can handle the spiritual warfare aspect of it. So I'm really excited to finally read This Present Darkness. Okay, so those are all of the books that I want to read in 2025. Not all of the books. Those are my top priorities. I obviously plan on reading more than that. But I'm really excited to try these out and hope that I have, that this works out well for me again this year, since it worked out so well last year to pick my top priorities this way. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on my favorite books from last year, I do have a video on that, so I will link that below, and you can go watch that and hear more details about why I loved these 12 books. And I also share some nonfiction in that video as well. I didn't choose nonfiction books that I'd like to read this year. I do have some, but I just decided to go with fiction for this video. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know a book that you want to read or that you're really looking forward to reading in 2025. I would love to hear all about it, and I will chat with you in the comments. Bye.